Do you know what I'm actually going to choose for you? I'm going to say kicking out finishes because I'm really interested to know what you think. One thing I didn't talk about with Dutch a couple of weeks ago, we watched a match with Samoa Joe versus Hook, Taz's kid. And it was a big step up for Hook. And it was all around a pretty darn good match. A good brawl, pretty intense. Samoa Joe took over, beat him to death. Essentially, and choked him out for the win. But there's one thing that a lot of fans weren't happy with. And after a sustained beating, Samoa Joe puts the muscle buster, his finisher. It's almost like a fisherman's suplex and, a big kind of thing. And then Hook kicks out at 1. And some people were fine with it. Other people were voicing their displeasure at someone sustaining a big beating and then kicking out of somebody's established finisher at 1. Where do you sit on as far as kicking out finishers at all and the concept of finishing moves in wrestling as well?
Yeah, it's a much overlooked part of our business, I think, today, especially today. Finishers are important because the fans that follow that wrestler, like for instance, when Brett would slap on the sharpshooter, the crowd would come up, right? Because they know that's what that means. When Jake would hit the DDT, when Austin would hit his, what was his finisher called? The
stunner. Yeah. So I couldn't tell if you said Austin or Awesome then. So I was thinking, do I say powerbomb or do I say, stunner?
Yeah, put my false teeth in a little bit better. It's some more glue up there. But there's a point to kick out, even at 1 on a finisher, and that is when you have that established pairing, the immovable object versus the irresistible force, and this fight has been going on and going on and going on, and let's say the heel has not yet hit his finish in any of these matches. When the heel finally hits that and does the cover, and there's that expectation as the finish, and then the babyface kicks out. But you build to that. It's not just like, for instance, the false finishes. Paul Heyman used to say to me, give me a lot of falsies, before you take it. Okay, well, that's fine. We can do that. But it's not a one size fits all. If I'm going to go out and wrestle, say, Mikey Whipwreck, who's the lovable loser, somehow keeps finding a way to win, as opposed to wrestling, say, Taz. Taz would make, or Bam Bam, or a slew of others would make sense to keep hitting them with stuff and hitting them, and they keep kicking out. And by doing that, but again, that's after a long run, right? That's after this angle has gone back and forth, where it's just now it's becoming a slobber knocker, right? Like no matter what you hit this guy with, he keeps kicking out. It's not just, okay, well, let's just throw in 25 falsies before we go home, and that's going to make a great match. The great match is predicated off the 25 falsies and all the buildup to get that angle to that position. As far as kicking out finishes, it's so overlooked today because the kids go out and they'll have a match and they'll hit your finish, my finish, Moose's finish, everybody else's finish, and then lose to a roll up or something. There was never a single time that I ever recall Jake Roberts walking into the dressing room and saying, "Hey, everybody, the DDT is my finish. I'm using it tonight, so don't everybody use that." There was a professionalism in that dressing room that you all knew it was his finish. And even if you used them, like Tommy Dreamer, like these DDTs quite often, he never would do it on a show that had a Jake Roberts on it, or somebody that would use that kind of thing. I never once had to ask, for nobody to just prostitute the belly-to-belly suplex. Now everything is just sort of thrown on the table. Everything's at play, and I can do whatever moves of yours I want and whatever else. And not understanding that, well, if I do yours and they kick out at 1, well, that sort of cheapens yours. Instead, why'd you beat your guy with it a few matches later? But all this is part of what we call storytelling and the psychology of our business. There's a reason a superplex comes after a body slam and not vice versa. But if you don't know that, you don't take the time, or like, the adage that I was told at an AEW show, the fans know it's a work, so it doesn't have to make sense. That's how we get to a place where we'll just throw a whole bunch of false finishes in there and use up everybody's false finish, and then do something like you stumble over a thimble in the ring, and I'll pin you on that. Finishing moves are meant to build to a particular point, not just a throwaway, not just okay, well, I'll give it a try, and if it doesn't work, I'll just do it again. But by doing that, it waters it all down, and then it becomes like a question of quality. So, well, Jake's work, every time he uses it, because he does it differently than that guy does it. Like, that's like really starting to parse hairs. And there are plenty of moves to do that you don't have to go through. What are there on a card? Say 8 matches. So what you're basically saying is there's 7 other moves that I have to use because there's just not enough other moves that I can possibly put in there. That's incredibly naive and short-sighted. And I think that's just another one of the ingredients that I think has taken the product to where we see it today, where you see the numbers being comparative to what we had said used to watch the business. When Jake would even set up for that DDT, the place would lose its mind, right? Because they knew what it meant if he hit it. But if 3 matches before they all did a DDT as a falsie, and now you do it, it's going to take some of the crowd's still going to pop because it's Jake. At that point of his career, but by doing that, it's if this is where Jake's finish was going to pop the crowd to, it might only be to here or here now because they've already seen him move a couple times, and it's a professionalism. It's not an homage and say, well, I'm going, but I couldn't beat it because I don't do it the same way you do it. A finisher works and it pops the crowd because it's been put on that pedestal through the television show and being repeatedly seen every time you saw Jake do it. So that's why you get to a point for Jake where he would just grab the guy and spin his hand, and the place would go crazy, right? It didn't even have to hit it, just that point of it is because there was so much emphasis put on that. Back then, like not only would you have trouble with heat with the guy, but you have heat with the company, because Vince McMahon, or say WWF then, had put a lot of money and time into making that move to elicit that response. And so if I just go out there and sort of willy-nilly throw it in here and there, maybe do it a second time, just because it takes some shine off of that move when Jake does it. And I have to go back and watch the match to see, and it's in full description like you had given it. I know that Samoa Joe has a huge respect for Taz, and you can see a lot of Taz mannerisms in him, in his character, and a great worker. I'm sure he wanted to go out and help. Hook's a good kid, and doing all that, trying to help get him over and hopefully succeeding, but get there the right way. As far as like going out and cheapening somebody else's false finish, or not false finish, but finisher, that I don't know if it had any build up to that or whatever else, but if they hadn't had that build up, that time of match after match after match, and now it's just getting to this point where I'm just going to pull a gun out if I have to beat you. That's what makes those false finishes, those finisher holds work. And by cheapening it like that and just throwing it in as a spot and then kicking out on one, it tarnishes a bit.
It's sort of hard to describe. You'd have to watch it yourself, obviously. But as I say, it was towards the end of the match, of course. Samoa Joe had been in control for several minutes, sustained beating near the end. Then he hits the muscle buster, then Hook kicked out one. You would have to watch it yourself and gauge it, because everything is taking on its own merits every situation.
Well, and one more point to make on that, and Joe doing that again because of the affinity and respect he had for Taz, and I'm sure likes Hook, and wants to help him get over. That it shows in some respect Hook's heart, right? Like he's taking this beating. But I think, again, it's like, do you like vanilla or do you like chocolate? For me, I would much rather have that guy kick out at 2 9/10. That shows a world more heart than kicking out on one after getting your ass kicked.